SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
This is Gerard Gibert, and thank you for listening to MidDays here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to MidDays, SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Rhino in the Element Wealth Studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music on this
Friday, y'all.
Man, yeah, it actually got a little warm out there, but it's scheduled to get a little more frigid over the weekend, correct?
Yeah, we're going to get a little, mercurial whiplash?
Well, it happens that time of year. A front moving through the Magnolia State, expected to cool things down a bit. I saw a forecast of a low in central Mississippi of 19. Is that true? Did I read that right?
It's
Monday
possible
night.
overnight, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're all buckled up, ready to go as usual. Kelly Bennett, multimedia journalist with the SuperTalk Mississippi News Department, joins MidDays at 11:20. And then I'm looking forward to this, right now at 12:05. Casey Anderson, executive director of the Mississippi Foresters Association, and David Livingston, who's just right down the hall in the building here, executive director of the Mississippi Loggers Association, will join us in a little roundtable discussion around the EU regulations on deforestation-free products, which are causing a problem for the forestry industry in the great state of Mississippi. So we'll get perspective from Casey Anderson, the ED of the Mississippi Foresters Association. He'll speak, of course, from the perspective of the land owners. And then David, executive director of the Loggers Association, will speak about the mills and the loggers, that sort of side of the equation in the supply chain. Oh, those gnarly Europeans. I'm beginning to think of them more as losers. I really am, because I'm just going to say again, they're insanely jealous and envious of this country. They know they cannot catch up and produce societal value, innovation, goods and services the way this country does. And by the way, that's in spite of our government and its egregious regulatory framework. Fortunately, we got a president who gets that and is busy working with his inner circle to repeal and revoke many of those regulations that cause problems. And a lot of that, of course, falls on the fossil fuels industry, which once again is incorporated in every aspect of economic activity. But the EU doesn't care. They really don't. It almost feels like that they implement policies designed to harm this country, especially in the high-tech sector, because they're, like everybody else on the planet, they're huge consumers of the various technology wares and services that this country produces. So rather than trying to create some competitive services and platforms, I just don't think that their economic environment, their cultural environment, doesn't really inspire doesn't engender such creations. So their view of it is, well, we're just going to tax it, fine it, regulate it, step all over it, so those Americans don't maintain their lead and just find it difficult to do business in the EU. Feels like that's what's going on there. And I know I'm on my soapbox a little bit about that.
But I'm just laughing because it reminded me of, aren't they trying to get Musk to pay $100 and some odd million in a fine? And he's just like, how are you going to make me?
Exactly. Good for him. You're right. He's thumbing his nose at them, and bravo to him. It's ridiculous. It's stupid stuff. And what did I say the other day? It's Alphabet, right? They're fining for not censoring enough. Not censoring enough. Now, remember, this is a group that will happily come arrest you in your home if you posted something on a social media platform that they deemed as hate speech, right? They come get you, literally send the police after you. Insanity.
Oh, it's worse than that. You get arrested if you talk about pork too close to a Muslim.
I saw that. Well, and this kind of reminds me of what's going on with the president's executive order just signed yesterday. It basically bans the states. It puts some prohibitions on the states in their regulation of AI. Now, generally speaking, I believe that we should follow the model of federalism and that the states should be able to regulate that as they see fit. But I also understand fully and appreciate the president's purpose here and the premise that he and his inner circle felt necessitated this EEO, and that is we got 50 states out there with literally thousands, I'm not exaggerating here, of legislation being considered, some have already enacted, that would create this patchwork of rules and policies and guidelines and regulations that would make it impossible for all the various organizations, all the various companies involved in the production of AI technology to comply 50 different ways. It'd be impossible.
Just to play devil's advocate a bit.
Yeah.
Isn't that a perfect use case for AI?
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
To untangle a whole country's worth of a patchwork, as you put it, of laws.
Yeah, I totally agree. And so I looked into that. And it was timely, Rhino, because yesterday, as you know, when I completed the show, we had an Mississippi AI task force meeting, and that occurred at the Capitol. That is I have to count now, 5th meeting, I believe. And right now we're in the information gathering stage. Nothing impulsive, nothing knee jerk. Hey, let's go out and do this, that, and the other. And of course, our mission. Our task is to advise our legislature, as necessary, on creation of any necessity and creation of any laws and policies associated with AI. Now, the good news is, and I want the people to know this, we got Senator Bart Williams on the Senate side that co-chairs along with my House rep, Representative Jill Ford in Madison, that chairs the Technology Committee in the House, and they serve as co-chairs of this committee. And the good news is we all agree, let's don't make any laws that just duplicate what we already have. We already have a bunch of laws that would apply here. It's just that using this technology to break said laws is kind of new because the technology's new. But we don't need any new laws in many cases. A lot of that stuff that some of these states are implementing in law relative to AI, it really is duplication of what is already on the books.
And it's not even analogous to the invention of the internet and you had to create new laws. For example, once the internet started getting legs, lawmakers had to make law saying it was illegal to transfer money from a bank account's computer into your account because That's just moving ones and zeros on a computer that never moved. So you had to make law for that. You don't have to make law saying it's illegal for AI to use copyrighted material to produce something that is not within the bounds of fair use, because you already have copyright laws regarding its use and fair use.
Great example. Absolutely great analogy. And that's the point. So, but the tendency is to overlaw. No such word, I know, but you get what I'm saying. All you got to do is pay attention to the activities in the legislature every year. There's 3,000 new laws, bills that are intended or designed by the author or authors to meander their way through the process and become law. 3,000. Don't we get to a point where, hey, we got enough, right? You would think. But Colorado is the state that I have learned has passed the most sweeping legislation regulating AI. So interestingly enough, and I'll catch it on the other side of the break, we got Steppenwolf bumping us out here. The executive order, Rhino, from the White House cites Colorado's law as kind of why we got to do this. And you'll find out why on the other side of the break. It's insane. Stepping aside in the Element Wealth studio.
Hello.
This segment of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Bring it on! Middays with Gerard Gibert. It is on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from a point where there's no room for error when you got stocks priced so expensively in the technology industry as there are. But most of the analysts are still predicting a good run between now and the end of the year in the markets, and then into next year. Still optimistic. And there are those that say we're in this AI bubble, and then there are those that say, no, we're just getting started. So, look, this is what makes markets, buyers and sellers. The NASDAQ down 464. Of course, the tech-laden NASDAQ, almost all the technology names down. Broadcom even down, and it had a great quarterly report. So I think there's just some skittishness among investors, but it's not unusual when you got the PEs way on up there, kind of out of the range of normal. All right, so back on this Colorado, just crazy. This Colorado Artificial Intelligence Act. The big thing is that developers and deployers, this is their term, must use, quote, reasonable care to prevent algorithmic discrimination, mandating transparency through disclosures and impact assessments, and establishing enforcement by the Attorney General with penalties of up to $20,000 per violation. That goes into effect February 1, 26. So what it focuses on, algorithmic bias against protected classes. So you can see where this is going. Let's just
Basically, the AI has to be woke or they won't allow it.
100%. 100%. So let's just say that an employer, and this is not an unusual case study, employers, especially large employers that have HR departments that are reviewing hundreds, sometimes thousands of applicants' resumes and submissions for job openings. Well, that's a tedious task for a human. But you could create an AI tool that could scrub and analyze all of those applications for a job and make some recommendations, some assessments, and provide that to decision makers. Okay.
It's already working in both directions with most of the major job sites.
That's exactly right.
You have an AI helper to help you fill out resumes or fill out applications and bump up your resume or punch it up a bit.
Yep.
And on the backside, you got AI helpers helping the employers find people seeking jobs.
100%. All right, so you see where this is going, though. If the tool provides an assessment, an analysis to decision makers, and let's just say someone other than a white male, because it appears that all the bias, by the way, I got a clip I sent to you on that from the Palantir CEO who ripped the bandage off, man, and I was glad to see it. But you see where that's going. Oh, yeah, your AI violated the law because it didn't recommend this person. It didn't recommend Kamala Harris over Donald Trump. Bing, 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 $20,000. Right? That's the problem. So who the heck is the arbiter here? The Attorney General of the state to determine if there's bias against protected classes? Does that not even beg the question, what the heck's a protected class and why do we need that? Don't we have laws already in place? Why do we have to have more for that? You know what ends up happening? You end up discriminating against those who aren't in protected classes. Like what happens right here in the city of Jackson, Mississippi, in the procurement process. Oh, wait, you don't have enough in your proposal for these protected classes, you're out. Even though your solution's better and less money. And guess what happens? You end up with poor vendors, weak vendors of various goods and services to the city that cost the taxpayers more. And the next thing you know, you got a city that's on the brink of failure. All rooted in that. And I'm disappointed, just to be honest with you, we've talked about it before, that newly elected mayor, Senator John Horn, turned mayor of Jackson. Congratulations to him. I think the mayor is a good guy with good intentions. But you know, Rhino, when I asked him, would you support repealing those procurement policies? He said no. And I contend, until you do that, you got no chance of fixing the city. And those exist in every failing Democrat city. Just look at them. They're all upside down. They're all screwed up. And every one of them have these preferential treatment procurement policies. And what also upsets me is that I can't get the legislature to pass law. They consider bills every year, and then they just pocket veto them, honestly. I know I'm on the soapbox on that, but this is now extending into AI. That's the point. So the president's executive order literally cited Colorado as kind of a reason why we got to do that. It says, to win, I'm reading from the executive order. This is from the White House on the whitehouse.gov site. To win, United States AI companies must be free to innovate without cumbersome regulation. But excessive state regulation thwarts this imperative. First, state-by-state regulation, by definition, creates a patchwork of 50 different regulatory regimes that makes compliance more challenging, particularly for startups. And it says, goes on to say, for example, a new Colorado law banning, quote, algorithmic discrimination may even force AI models to produce false results to avoid, quote, a differential treatment or impact on protected groups. The president's got that right. He's doing what I can't get the legislature to do. That's the truth. The legislature should pass law this session that prohibits preferential treatment in procurement within the boundaries of the state of Mississippi for public sector. I don't care what the private sector does. They want to do that, they're stupid. I disagree with it, but I believe that's their prerogative as a private organization. So the point is, we don't need any new stupid laws, Colorado. You're right. You're trying to force wokeness in the AI ecosystem. But it goes on to say...
Because if you take away those guardrails from just about every AI that's ever been invented and you ask it hard questions, difficult questions, uncomfortable questions. It gives you answers that don't fit within the bounds of any liberal, idiotic narrative.
That's true. So, and then there's some...
because it hurts their feelings, they got to put guardrails on it.
There's some... It's another thing where, I've talked about this before. You're forcing this diversity and inclusion narrative. You're forcing it. It's not happening organically, naturally. And when you force it, you're failing. And this idea that there's even a problem, in my opinion, is a ruse unto itself. So developers must provide documentation. This is insane. To the government, state government, intended uses, data risks. You also must conduct annual assessments detailing purpose, data, performance, and monitoring of high-risk systems. This is just regulation on steroids. This is exactly what the president's trying to avoid, is this over-regulation.
And how much you want to bet the people pushing this are all kumbaya, save the trees, but they're making companies print all that out and deliver it?
That's a good point.
Because it's government. You couldn't possibly just put it on a thumb drive and show up with that. No, it's the government. It's got to be in paper and triplicate.
It is absolutely ridiculous. And $20,000 fines per violation. Unbelievable. And you've also got to provide reports about all the underlying IT infrastructure you're using as well. This is insanity. We're going to a break right now, but I've seen it on our C Spire text line. It's my next subject to discuss, and that's the despicable congressman from the great state of Mississippi, Benny Thompson. It is time for you to go, and we'll explain on the other side of the break.
From the Seabrook Dot. You're listening to Middays with Gerard here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack. And don't you come back no more.
NCTC reference the unfortunate accident that occurred with the National Guardsman being killed.
You think that was an unfortunate accident?
I mean...
It was a terrorist attack.
Wait. Look, I'll get it straight. Then you can
He shot our National Guardsman in the head.
Look, Mr. Chairman, will you direct the witness to allow me to ask my question? It was an unfortunate situation, but you blamed it solely on Joe Biden.
That's totally pathetic. You're an embarrassment to the state, Congressman Thompson. You're an embarrassment to the country. Hell, you're an embarrassment to the world.
He's always been a sorry sack of crap.
How is it that Mississippi, don't answer that question, unfortunately has to put up with being represented by that fool? That's beyond the pale there. It's one thing to disagree about complex policy. We could have a debate about health care and taxes and all the other policies that our government deals with. But being unwilling, it's intentional to acknowledge that this was an out in the open, in broad daylight assassination of a soldier. I can't even comprehend it. You don't qualify. I'm so worked up about this. You don't qualify to breathe their air. You really don't. God rest her soul. She's 1,000 times more a valued American than this guy is. And he's been in Congress since 93. 93! He's produced nothing. He's brought dishonor to the state of Mississippi and to the nation. That's really despicable. I can't get over it. Unfortunate. Wait, I'm going to get to it. What do you mean you're going to get to it? You got to think about that? something as simple, as binary, as is grounded in reality, a fact of life. There's life and there's death. And this person's life was snuffed out by an evil human. That person's a subhuman in my view and should go to the death penalty. That's just the reality. We can't play around with this anymore.
Should have already been done.
Absolutely.
Shouldn't take that long. That's why it's not a deterrent.
Assassinated a National Guardsman that had volunteered, just signed up shortly before. And let's not forget, 2 were shot. One has passed away. The other seems to be improving, stabilizing, based on reports. We pray for a full recovery there. It's almost like he's excusing it. Wasn't it Elon Omar that referred to 911 as a thing happened, right? Who I think celebrated when that happened. Sitting in the U.S. Congress, celebrating an attack on American soil, causing the death of 2,400 Americans just doing their job, working, contributing. That, too, is despicable. But I think this one hits home for those of us in Mississippi because this person has the state of Mississippi associated with their name. Like I said, he's not worthy to breathe the same air that brave National Guardsman did. That's pathetic. What do you think her family's thinking? You got a member of Congress that can't at least show a little reverence for the fact that an illegal subhuman snuffed out with the intention of killing the National Guardsman. It was intentional. You don't shoot somebody in the head in broad daylight and it not be intentional and planned and premeditated. And like you said, should have already had the maximum punishment applied. But I applaud Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. You consider that an unfortunate accident? Accident? You accidentally shot them in the head? He's dumb enough to think that, isn't he? Sadly. Well, man, the people of Mississippi and Congressional District 2, they deserve better representation. And I pray that we can get a better representative. And, you know, I'm appealing to people in that district, and I'm sure many of them who vote for Congressman Thompson don't tune in to us, and that's fine. But nonetheless, for the record, I'm appealing to them. Look beyond politics. Look beyond it. Look beyond the fact that you believe that this person is acting in your best interest, and think about what he just said there. That indicates a person who really puts politics above basic human respect. That's where the Democrat Party is these days. It's where they are. It's like the BLM activists that you and I played on the show when the riots were going on in 2020 that said, oh, yeah, if they're in there just stealing and looting, that's okay because that's reparations. That's literally what they think. It's okay to go steal, to break the law, to break God's law in the name of politics and political gain. We don't deserve as good as we got it here when we have people like that in this country. They certainly don't deserve it. And I pray that we do something about it. Mississippi needs better representation. The fact that, and these are people that want to tell you how compassionate they are. Did he exhibit compassion in that hearing? Quite the opposite. The only compassion he's got is for himself and his pocketbook. Man, oh man. I'm going to try to settle down a little bit. It really bothered me that this guy's on the national stage. And everybody looks at it, oh, yeah, well, that's why Mississippi's so screwed up. They got guys like that in there. That's what bothers me. And I want the world, the country to know Mississippi's better than that. Don't judge us on the basis of that one fool. And I'll not apologize. He deserves every bit of it. That's, again, if we were talking about a policy disagreement, I'd be more respectful, as we always try to be. This isn't a policy disagreement. This is just basic human dignity. It's incredible. I feel so bad for the parents. You know, if there's one place you would think there would be some sympathy to what happened, it'd be in the halls of our Congress. My gosh. When you're talking about a member of the National Guard serving their country, and all necessitated, like you said, because of the woke crap in Washington, D.C. That would be necessary. If they didn't look the other way when crimes are committed and make the decisions on how to proceed within our legal systems based on their status, their profile, where they criminalize the victims and they herald and decriminalize the criminals. That's just sick. Really is. Let me get to the C Spire text line here. Brian in the Delta said, thing is, Benny knows he's a sorry, low-like piece of crap, but he doesn't care because there's no consequences for his action. I agree, and that's a sad thing, Brian. I vote against his sorry ass every time on the C Spire text line. He's representative of his supporters, Gary in Carrollton says. I pray you're wrong, Gary. I fear you're right, but I pray you're wrong. On the C Spire text line, never happened, gents. This is Tom at Quito. The 2nd District is my home, and most of the people who vote for him are good folks, but he's there till his death. That's sad. We gotta open their eyes, man. We gotta open their eyes. And again, forget about policy. Forget about all the government largesse that he brings home that I think promotes laziness, honestly. It just does. Forget about that. Consider this exchange with our Homeland Security Secretary and the just lack of compassion and human respect he has. How about American servicemen that were deported? Huh?
You mean like the one that self-deported to avoid drug charges that they tried to show up with the little video call in the hearing? That one? Is that the one you're talking about?
That's the response we get to this?
Oh, somebody else said that we were for, where'd it go? Did Rhino just suggest that the National Guard shooter should not have a trial but should be summarily executed? Yes.
Coming right back in the Element Well studio.
Crying all the time. You ain't nothing more to have, darling. Crying all the time. Well, you ain't never caught a rabbit. You ain't no friend of mine.
Now back to Middays with Gerard here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
You're as cold as ice. You're willing to sacrifice our love. You never take advice. Someday you'll pay the price. I know. I've seen it before. It happens all the time.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays. So, I have a friend that said, talking about Benny, he's truly despicable. When I was Homeland Security Director for Mississippi, he came home to Mississippi to see our newly established location, new office for Homeland Security in Mississippi. This is a few years ago. He advised me that his mother had broken her neck in a fall at her nursing home shortly before that visit by the congressman to the new Homeland Security office. And remember, he's now the ranking member, right, Rhino, on Homeland Security? Wasn't he the chair when the Democrats had control? Right. So he was, my friend said, that was former director of Homeland Security. I was unable to attend, taking care of his mother. Thompson told his deputy that, quote, if I were Trent Lott, he would have been here. His mother died the next day. That's how he thinks. Not maybe ask the question, hey, where is the director? And if the deputy director would have said, his mother suffered a serious fall. He's with her. She's in bad shape. Surely, just out of basic human dignity and respect, you'd understand that. But naturally concluding, as the congressman did, this person dismissed this event and elected not to attend because he's a Democrat and likely doesn't align with his other viewpoints of my friend, the director. That's how he thinks about everything. Always parses everything into the little political columns, right? All about him. When are these people going to realize, and I don't mean to generalize here, but there are a few beyond just Benny that feel this way. You work for us. You're not entitled to squat. I don't care if you're a member of the Congress. And the good ones understand that. They get their role. The org chart has the people at the top and the people we elect below that. Is that correct? Isn't the way our system designed? That's brilliant. By the way, that's called a democratic system. We adopted the Republican form of democracy, meaning we don't directly vote on law and policy. We elect people to do that for us. We're hiring them to do that for us. It's a privilege. It's an honor. Be respectful to the people you represent. Simple as that. But he couldn't find that. He immediately had to jump to a conclusion, which, as you know, is rooted in race, because he racializes everything. Absolutely racializes everything. It's disgusting. Bring him home. Let him go collect his pension.
Or better yet, legislators that are likely listening, draw him out.
That's true. And I think we're seeing states such as Texas become bold in that respect. Challenge the DOJ. Draw his butt out. I agree. And if they say no, I think we got some leeway there from the Supreme Court, because that's coming up, to allow that to stay in place. It's time to do that. Especially in a situation where no matter what, as somebody is saying, or several people certainly that live in that district on our C Spire text line, you can't blow the guy out of there. And it's unfortunate that many that vote for him drink his Kool-Aid, do they not? He makes all the he makes a lot of promises that obviously he cannot commit to, he cannot fulfill. He's writing checks that can't be cashed, as the metaphor goes. CC in Senatobia says, the saddest part about Benny Thompson is he's just saying out loud what the other liberals are thinking. Man, I hope that's not the case, CC. With respect to this fallen National Guard troop at the hands of an evil person. I hear you, CC, but man, I hope that's not true. Should tell you the story of trying to lease oil and gas minerals from Bolton area families. Wow, that's on the C Spire text line. You know, Rhino, the stories of the shakedown games that Benny plays are legendary and extensive, are they not? Legendary. He's the biggest pay-to-play guy under the dome in the Capitol. You better be writing checks if you want access to him. That ain't the way it works. Man, the founders, when they see crap like that, they're rolling in their graves. There's no doubt. He is the antithesis of their vision for this country. Fox News, Super Talk News is next. Kelly Bennett at 11:20. Of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
Welcome to the show that challenges you to think deeply, and look beyond political posturing. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's hour 2 of Middays. We are live in the Element Wealth studio on this
Friday, y'all.
Well, okay, I'm trying to get my blood pressure down after that. Thompson, it's just incredible. And the people of District 2 keep sending him up there. Again, I'm calling on the legislature to redraw that district, and I don't care. Take the risk. Let the DOJ respond if they see fit to, and then go fight it. Because the way it's drawn right now
Is racist.
it's racist. It's discriminatory. It absolutely is. And there's no reason, in my view, and it has been since we've been drawing districts that way. When the DOJ, no, go back and draw it over. We got to make sure a person that looks like this is elected, right? Where the hell's that in the Constitution? Man, that's not the way it's supposed to work. And does that not also suggest that, well, I can only be represented by a person that looks like me? Not that aligns with my views, only that looks like me. That is the essence of bias and discrimination. It goes back to Martin Luther King, where you're contrasting the color of one's skin to the content of their character. We should be more concerned about the latter, but not in the left world. Not whatsoever. It's like playing a chess game. Like I said, one of them, one of those, one of them. Boy, this just doesn't look like America. Looks got something to do with representing the people? That's what we're saying?
That's how infantile their worldview is.
Man, oh man. I say, one of my contacts, a state senator just sent me a note, said, spot on, let the legislature handle Benny and the last redistricting we just did as well. I know how to draw a map. Give me the pen. I agree, he does. Let's get that done. And by the way, you've probably seen that this story. If you hadn't, I'm going to share it with you about, no surprise, a BLM activist, Tashella Dickerson, Oklahoma City leader, just indicted for wire fraud and money laundering. You're shocked at this, aren't you?
No.
You remember when they were raising money for bail funds to release these rioters during the George Floyd Summer of Love when the dang country was on fire? And the CNN reporters, it's a peaceful protest. And there was 80-foot flames, plumes behind them. Well, apparently the Oklahoma City chapter of BLM raised more than $5.6 million in these bail funds. However, it appears that Ms. Dickerson pocketed
Over $3 million.
$3 million. 2/3 of it. She allegedly used this money, if you just want to get your blood boiling, and not taxpayers, the people who gave to this, thinking they were supporting bail, which was bad enough, honestly. we had a presidential candidate that had such a GoFundMe account. She used this money to pay for luxury vacations, retail shopping, food, a vehicle, and 6 retail properties in Oklahoma City. So I'm looking at a photo of Ms. Dickerson, and she's got a shirt that says Black Lives Matter, Oklahoma City. She's got a pistol. Looks like a Glock in her hand. What? You can't make it up. You really can't. This is incredible. Just incredible. This is disturbing. Students, while I'm on my woke train here, students in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, are being taught that Santa Claus is a gay black man married to a white dude. I'm not kidding you. I'm looking at it. It's a storybook presented to 2nd and 3rd graders.
That's so stupid. You got to laugh at it.
It's incredible. What's the purpose of that? Why do they got to screw stuff up like that? Why do they have to do it with children? Unbelievable. Now, the other one I sent you, I know we're having some problems in our communication, and it's a Netflix show that's apparently like the most popular kids show. What's the name? Coco, I think's the name of it, something like that. And Coco, there's a little jingle. I don't know if you can get the thing to work or not, but it's the show itself. And there's kind of a little jingle where there's
like Coco Melon.
Yeah, that's it. And it's the Coco Melon show. It's very popular among the youngsters, and it's a cartoon, just so you know. So this is a cartoon that
What about the one with the little boy dancing in the dress,
yes,
with the dads.
Yes,
yeah, that's like 2 years old now.
It apparently is making a comeback this year on Netflix. Is my understanding that it's being shown more frequently and viewed more frequently, and it's become more popular. I didn't know about it from 2 years ago, but it's just another thing. Like, I just want to say, why? Why do you have to do that? What's the value of that? I mean, it's the number one show right now for ages 2+ on Netflix. And this particular episode has a little boy that's running around in a dress. I guess that's Coco, right?
I have no idea.
For his biracial homosexual parents. For 2-year-olds. I just don't get it. I know I say that all the time because I can't. I keep scratching my head thinking, where are the logical thinkers? Where's rational thought? We don't seem to have that anymore in this country. I watched a black preacher, says Paula Meridian, say that many black people hate the person that actually tries to help them, and especially if it's another black person. I don't doubt that. And I want to be clear. There are a lot of fine black people in the state of Mississippi. This really isn't about race. It's Benny Thompson that's making it about race. That should be excluded from the conversation. This is about basic human dignity. And I want to be clear. If it were a black soldier, I'd be as outraged. But would Benny Thompson refer to that as an unfortunate accident? Probably not. Especially if it were a white person who pulled the trigger. This was an Afghan national, as you know. It's just out of control. Liz Warren, you know who she is. She's still on this tax giveaways for the rich. So she posted this last night, and that's all because yesterday the Senate failed to pass legislation concerning health care. Competing measures, a Democrat that would extend the enhanced subsidies for 3 years, scheduled to expire just in a couple of weeks here. And the Republican plan,
Again, I'd like to point out that it's not they're not being sneaky with that 3-year timetable.
Oh, no doubt about it.
Oh, 3 years? You mean just in time for an election cycle?
Just as they weren't with respect to this particular iteration expiring at the end of the year. But you know who joined in to support the Democrat legislation? Senator Josh Hawley. I told you, that guy's a snake. I had such high hopes for him. I find myself astonished at his positions and votes on a regular basis and his rhetoric. He's looking more and more like Bernie Sanders, is he not? As a Republican from Missouri. Now, I wasn't surprised about it. There's a couple others that were among the Republicans that I was shocked that we have some, but what the heck's her name from Murkowski, Collins, Murkowski from
they're
Alaska.
just worthless.
But of course they are Republicans. Now, you want to talk about a rhino? That's the classic rhino. Republicans in name only there. But I would argue the best you can do in Maine, the best you could do in Alaska. Maybe not. They're better than some because they're not 100% caucusing with the Democrats, but it sure does seem like more time than not they vote with Democrats and their constituents keep voting them in. Kelly Bennett with SuperTalk Mississippi News is coming up next.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert, here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Wow, I feel good. I knew that I wouldn't. I feel good. I knew that I wouldn't. So good, so good. I got you. Wow, I feel nice.
All I can think about is Eddie Murphy imitating James Brown on Saturday Night Live. That was so good. We welcome now Kelly Bennett, multimedia journalist, SuperTalk Mississippi News. Oh, wow.
It glitched out on us.
What was that?
Well, oh, man. That was interesting, to say the least. Yeah,
I see what did it.
Okay. I know we've been having...
You know what? It was actually scary to me because I had to bring a brand new pair of headphones to work today because my headphones have been doing exactly what that sounded like. And I was like, oh no, headphones, don't go out now. I need you.
All right, Kelly, tell us what it's all about. We're going to have some cold temperatures moving into the Magnolia State here in the next couple of days, especially Monday morning. We were just talking about that. What's up there?
Actually, I got kind of tickled by the way the National Weather Service in Jackson put it. They called it weekend weather whiplash, which I thought was pretty funny. So we're actually going to have a pretty nice weekend, a warm up, and then a cold front is going to usher in a quick rush of Arctic air Sunday night into Monday. Temperatures are expected to be in the 15 to 20 degree range when we wake up Monday morning, and they're talking about 27 on the coast.
Wow.
Monday morning. So,
brutal.
I mean, it's the kind of cold that sinks into your bones, and apparently it's going to be everywhere.
Okay, so being a coast resident, you got clothes for that?
Absolutely. Layer up, baby. Layer is the key.
All right, so economic development announcements yesterday. It looks like we're going to be spending some money on site development.
Yeah, Governor Tate Reeves announced that the state is allocating over $100 million toward creating shovel-ready sites. And these will be for new companies, workforce training, tourism, and conservation. And he's had a lot of success doing this in different areas of the state already, where companies, when they get these sites ready, these companies come, they're thinking about where they want to locate, they take a look. And if the site is shovel ready, they're more likely to move in because obviously it takes less time to get the development underway. But here's what he had to say about that.
We're doing what it takes. to build an even stronger state economy that works on behalf of all of our people. They say Rome wasn't built in a day. Well, Mississippi's historic success wasn't built overnight. Our state is experiencing unprecedented success because the administration has been strategic in our economic development efforts.
I agree. It is really strategic. It seems to be working for us. If you want to look at the list of projects, which is super long and it goes all the way from North Mississippi to Southern Mississippi, you can just log on to supertalk.fm. And that wasn't the only economic news yesterday. TerraForge Biocarbon Solutions announced that they're investing more than $100 million to locate operations in Pike County. That manufacturing project will create 36 jobs, and I believe they're expecting to have that open in 2027.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's no doubt the governor fully understands that having these sites all prepped and cleaned and grubbed and ready to put a shovel in the ground to get a company's project underway, critical competitive differentiator, and it has paid dividends for the state. The governor sees that, and so it's a good strategy. I applaud him on that. Talk a minute about Speaker of the House Jason White. He was on the morning show yesterday with Richard. They covered a variety of topics as we approach the 2026 legislative session. He was asked about the Public Employees Retirement System program, my favorite subject. Tell us about that.
Yeah, you're a math guy. I hear you talk about PERS. I'm like, oh, my head's spinning, Gerard. Don't do the math anymore. But yeah, he had a lot to say about PERS, and we all know that it's woefully underfunded. It needs to be fixed. So what state lawmakers did last year, or earlier this year rather, was pass a bill designed to shore up the program. And this bill creates a Tier 5 for new hires starting on March 1st of next year. It also pushes the retirement from 30 years of service to 35 years of service. Well, there's been a lot that first responders and schools have had to say about that plan. They've expressed concerns that this new tier will harm their ability to hire future employees and retain current ones. And Jason White said, absolutely, the 2026 session gets underway in January, and they will be taking another look.
You'll see part of that in our education reform package as it deals with retired teachers and looks at some things of Tier 5 about going to 35 years and going to 8, your high 8 instead of your high 4.
So you talk about that 35 years to retirement, and that's one of the things that first responders were so concerned about, because people in the fields of, EMTs, firefighters, and those kind of, law enforcement officers, they typically don't make it 35 years because of the physical tax it takes on their body. So Speaker White said, yes, that's absolutely a different issue.
There's a physical and mental side to that job, unlike any others. And most guys don't make it. And they don't make it 35 years.
Now, this is what I thought was interesting during the interview with the House Speaker. For the first time I've heard him say this, he really wants to legalize mobile sports betting next year. And he suggested that we could use the money generated from doing that to shore up PERS.
Allow that revenue on an annual basis, go there until such time it's funded at, say, an 85% level. Okay. But the House will pass that bill again early in session. You'll see it, and you'll probably see that revenue dedicated strictly to the PERS system.
That bill died in the Senate last year. I think it died the year before as well. I mean, they've been trying to pass mobile sports betting for a while.
Yeah, this will cause the Senate to sort of walk the plank here, because it's similar to the way Governor Phil Bryant got the lottery enacted. There were many on both sides of the Capitol that wanted more money for roads and bridges, but stopped short of signing off on increasing the fuel tax, and the governor, and there were many that also wanted a lottery, so he kind of blended them and said, okay, I'll give you an opportunity to get more money for roads and bridges, let's pass the lottery, and it did. It happened in 2018. I think this is kind of a sweetening way to get the Senate to sign off on mobile sports betting. Hey, this would help PERS. The question is how much, because it's estimated to generate about $20 million a year, which isn't squat when it needs about $200 million. But it's hard to tell. Other states have seen their estimates fall short of reality, and so we could see the same in Mississippi. What else did the speaker say about his 26 priorities?
Education reform is going to be his number one priority, and I think we all know the sticking point on that. We heard from the state superintendent of education this week as well. He was on, and Dr. Lance Evans said it's I'm all for it, but public school money going to private schools is an issue for a lot of lawmakers. And so I think that's where we're going to see the most heated part of that school choice debate.
And the superintendent. I caught pieces of that interview as well. He also, and I interviewed him when we were in Tupelo a couple of months ago, he has concerns, if not just totally opposed to the use of public money, education savings accounts to fund private school tuition. He just really made a big point about the standards and all that stuff. And my view is the market will figure that out. So
that's where I was going next. His big point of contention with school choice was that private schools need to be held to the same standard as public schools.
Yeah. Okay, what about Gluckstadt? What's going on there? Scam warning. I hadn't heard about that. And, both of my children live in Gluckstadt.
Yeah, and I hate to say this, but this is like scam season during the Christmas holiday. So
it is.
We've got one being perpetrated in the city of Gluckstadt, and this one's kind of aimed at business owners. This scammer has been sending out fraudulent messages requesting payments, donations, sponsorship fees, account updates, and other financial information. And what makes this one so insidious, and scammers are getting better and better at scamming people, they're impersonating the city and using the official city logo, which makes this fraud even harder to detect. They want residents to know they'll never ask for money, gift cards, confidential financial information, or anything like that through emails, text, or social media messages. So please, you guys really be on the lookout for scammers.
We're about out of time, but real quick about football. Got a couple of points there. Tell them about it.
Football, we've got some playoff games coming up. Oh, the SEC schedules are out for Ole Miss and Mississippi State fans. And Caleb put that up online. If you want to take a look at what's going to happen in 26 to 27, just log on to supertalk.fm.
Kelly Bennett, multimedia journalist, SuperTalk Mississippi News. Always a great report, Kelly. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Happy weekend.
You too. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
From the Seabrook.FM is with Gerard Gibert.
Let's do this.
On Super Talk, Mississippi.
Let's go.
So I will say this, I like the speaker's idea about, well, why don't we dedicate the money from the mobile sports betting to the public employees retirement system. And again, even though it's estimated to generate about $20 million a year of revenue to the state, and if the actuaries say you really need about 200, look, don't scoff at it. I mean, it's still something, and it's dedicated, and it doesn't fall on the burden of the taxpayers. It's voluntary. And the same thing with the $80 million that the lottery generates that goes to the roads and bridges, to the state transportation fund. Even though that $80 million, of course, is not a great deal of money in a $1.5 billion budget, there's still a lot of stuff you can do with $80 million from a transportation infrastructure perspective. And again, it's voluntary. I'm always for a voluntary approach to funding over a compulsory approach, and that would be raise your taxes. And, of course, Mississippi is on a trajectory to fully eliminate the income tax, which is a good thing. Liz Warren, though, I talked about that before we had Kelly on. So, again, yesterday, the Senate failed to pass either the Democratic or the Republican health care plan. And again, the Democratic plan, very straightforward. Let's just extend those enhanced subsidies for 3 years. And the Republican plan, I'll get into that in a minute, but we discussed it yesterday. It's a combination of health savings accounts and catastrophic/bronze. That's the lowest level plans sold in the exchanges. And the expectation is more people would opt for the bronze and catastrophic plans, lower premiums, but get the HSA. You know, that math is flawed as well. But Liz Warren says Republicans gave $132 billion in tax breaks to the top 1% in 2027. With that money, we could have extended the ACA tax credits for over 20 million people next year and still have $100 billion left over. Her math is correct, except I take strong exception to this idea that government, in the case of what she says here, Republicans gave tax breaks. So in other words, allowing you to keep the money you lawfully and legitimately earned is a tax break. Wrong. You should be thanking the top 1% for covering 46% of what goes into the Treasury. They pay more than the bottom 90%. And what you want is them to pay it all. That's their goal. No, we already are at a dangerous situation where a small smidgen of the households in this country are funding the federal government. What if they just woke up and said, I ain't doing it anymore? Didn't Maggie Thatcher warn us about that? Running out of OPM, other people's money? You should be thanking them, Liz Warren. You love to bash Elon Musk. The dude paid $8 billion in taxes last year. That ain't enough? No, it's never enough, of course.
And Musk called them on that.
He did.
When they were coming out with, well, if he would just take this percentage of his personal wealth, we could solve world hunger. And he basically came out and said, look, you give me an itemized invoice of how that money will cure world hunger, I will give it to you.
He sure did. You're right. And
did they ever try to even produce that invoice?
Negative.
No.
Negative. The problem is you point out, a lot of these people are already incredibly generous. You just saw Michael Dell cough up, $6 billion. Just comes out of nowhere. Proposed it. Now, I have an idea that the president in the background is calling on the Michael Dells of our country to come forth with some help in that. And this is all about funding these accounts for young people in this country. The Trump accounts, the next 4 years, $1,000 goes into account for newborns in this country. And that money cannot be touched until they turn 18. It's contributed. It can earn income and increase in value without any tax consequences. It is taxable when they withdraw it. But at that point, hopefully that $1,000 has evolved into a whole lot. Literally, Ryan, I started thinking about this. We could come up with a plan that would eliminate the need for Social Security and Medicare for, I'm talking about babies born Now, if that money were put away and they couldn't touch it, that's the key. You can't touch it. It's got to be invested in a restricted way, just based on the returns our institutional assets have produced in this country, the greatest wealth generator ever. You could have enough money literally to retire, more than Social Security would produce for you, without the government's involvement. There's a way to design, so I'm convinced. I haven't done the math on it, but I believe there's a way to do that. And I have to credit my friend Russ Latino, who first proposed this idea. It made sense to me. And we'd have to sit down and do some math, but I do think it's possible. So the difference is you're putting this, the key is, I should say, and the reason this is workable, you're putting this money away at the time you're born. And you don't touch it. The problem always is we just are not disciplined often as adults to just invest on our own and put money away on our own. So this would actually, I look at it and say, well, I'm not crazy about the idea of government dropping this money into an account, but if there's a way to offset it and save money downstream through the traditional government programs, I'm in. But more importantly, when you get the likes of Michael Dell coming in and adding to those accounts, what's the limit? Like $5,000 a year, I think. So I've seen a couple of companies in the last couple of days. I'd have to look up the names of those companies. Their name escapes me right now. That are now announcing that they will put $5,000 in one of these Trump accounts, because that's perfectly legal, for any baby born to an employee. I like that idea. In fact, I think we ought to do it here at the state level. Why couldn't we give companies in this?
You had Dell with the big announcement. You had Bank of New York, Mellon, Robinhood Markets, J.P. Morgan Chase, Charter Communications. Yeah.
I think it was J.P. Morgan Chase. They're all announcing, right, that they're going to contribute to these accounts on behalf of babies born to their employees. Is that what you're seeing there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like it. So the money contributed goes into those accounts. It's not taxable to the recipient. And the increase in value in those accounts for that 18-year period until such time when they withdraw it, it's like a 401k. It's not taxable either. You watch it go up, you don't have to pay taxes on that, because unlike what the Democrats want, we don't tax wealth. We tax income. They hate that, don't they? And that would destroy this country if that ever got through. Like it almost destroyed countries that tried that and then ultimately said, no, that ain't working too well. We lost all those people, for one thing, and people don't have a tendency to produce as much under those circumstances. So I like this idea. We should consider this in the state of Mississippi. We still have an income tax. We got another 10, 12 years of that at a minimum. Why don't we come up with a way to provide not a dollar for dollar, but maybe it's a 50 cents on a dollar tax credit to businesses that dump money in those accounts? So instead of just sending money out to incentivize people to have children, because we do have a birth rate problem in this country, let the companies handle that internally for babies born to their staffs. And they can't touch it. So it's not like, well, I go have a baby today and get money, because that's what causes bad decisions. This would be, yep, we're going to put a little bit of money away so you don't have to be so concerned about your child's future. Just raise them, make sure they're good, productive, law-abiding citizens, and by the time they're in their 20s, they got a couple of $1,000,000. And at that point, you want to take it out, now you're paying taxes, but there's ways of, I think, structuring something that is rational and creative and reasonable. We should consider that. I'm always a big fan of, let's get the private sector involved. And that's why I like seeing Dell and these other companies get involved as well. So we're stepping aside for a break on Middays. We're coming right back in the Element Well studio. We got Casey Anderson and David Livingston coming in to talk about forestry and logging and how the EU regulations are affecting that in Mississippi.
Poly up a miss.
Are we going to do this?
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Keep rolling. 3, 2, 1.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. Mose asks, Gerard, the only question I have concerning those type of accounts, the Trump accounts, is what happens if they die before they can draw it? Is it treated like life insurance, or would the government recoup it? It would become most part of the child's estate. I mean, literally, they could have an estate, and they file a tax return, but they likely don't make enough to pay any income taxes. And we're only talking about the $1,000. We're not talking about the contributions made by family. I think family and friends are $5,000 a year, and an employer, I want to say it's $2,500 a year threshold that they can contribute. And by the way, there are some rules around withdrawal, even though an increase in the value of those accounts is not taxable. And the only taxes due are when funds are withdrawn. Just like a 401k account, you contribute to your 401k account. That's pre-tax. But when you take money out, withdraw money out of your 401k account, then you pay ordinary income tax. In this case, you're still, after 18, you're still limited on what you could use that for. It has to be education, first-time home purchase, or other purposes that are under the various IRA rules. So still some work to be done to codify all that. But my suggestion was...
I think it's just those are the limits to not garner a penalty.
Yeah, you can put more in, but I'm
talking about when you take it out.
Okay.
Like if you use it for a home purchase or for health expenses or for education, you can make a withdrawal that's not subject to your normal income tax.
That's right.
If you use it for anything else, it's regarded as income.
It's tax-free for those purposes. If you direct it for those purposes, spend it for those purposes, right. And that's to encourage buying a house, getting an education. Absolutely. That makes sense. But I guess what I'm suggesting is we could probably look at also extending that to Social Security and Medicare. You can't take it out until you vest and you're retired, but you keep building value in it. That's what you don't do now with Social Security. You don't have an account with your name on it up there. It does track how much you put in it, but it's not like your typical investment account where you can watch its value increase, and you can't direct how it's invested. Because remember, Social Security is restricted. It can only invest in one security, and that's those special issue bonds, and they pay an average of about 3.5%. It's not like what PERS can invest in, which is basically anything they want. And in fact, if it were restricted in that respect, our public employees retirement system in Mississippi would be in much more dire condition than it is, because it generates an 8 to 9% return over the last dozen years. Social Security, 3.5% interest is paid on the surpluses, and there are no more surpluses. So we're not even getting that benefit anymore. But that's how that would work. Let's see, on Netflix, we were talking about the Coco Melon crazy film, an episode really that's just disgusting in my view, especially when you consider that it's the most popular program on the streaming channel for 2-year-olds and up. I dropped Netflix when they picked up the Obamas. Also, Pocahontas doesn't want all her big pharma money taxed. That's probably true. The spineless GOP need to get a grip and redraw the state. Talking about Benny Thompson. Deal with repercussions later if there are any. I agree. I'm with you. Parents are the ones that need to pay attention to what kids are watching. I do, 100%. Let's see, over 25 years, Benny was paying voters $50 each to vote for him. This is somebody that lives in the district. I did home health in the hood. I wouldn't be shocked at anything, honestly. Replace the word dumb with the word evil, and it makes more sense, unfortunately. Paul and Hernando talking about the Coco Melon stuff. That normalizes that particular type of living. Agree. Could federal income tax be replaced by a national sales tax on the C-Spire tax line? Seems like that would be a way for everyone to pay taxes. I mean, it's been discussed and floated just countless times, the fair tax and other approaches.
The main problem with that proposal is the federal government is so overbloated and so overburdensome and are so allergic to cutting anything meaningful that in order to keep everything the way it is at the current level of funding, the national sales tax would be like 28%.
That's right. On every, and by the way, it'd be on everything: your house, your legal services, your accounting services, any sort of professional services now that are generally not subject to sales tax at the state level would be. Your rent, all that, to make the numbers work. And it likely would cause our economy to contract to a great extent. We've built an economy around a lot of people who don't pay any taxes consuming, and people that are getting wealthy from that consumption, they're paying all the taxes. So it's wrong when Liz Warren and others say they don't pay their fair share. No, they do. I'm not saying they're not creating wealth for themselves, but they're the only ones really that are paying significant taxes. No disrespect to anybody out there paying taxes, but we're not in the league of the top 1%. And of the, 120 million households in the country, there are like 10,000 in that 1%. We are literally relying on 10,000 households in this country for our very federal government existence. Coming right back after the news.
Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's hour 3, the afternoon portion of Middays. We are live from the Element Wealth Studio on this
Friday, y'all.
It's our pleasure to welcome now Casey Anderson, Executive Director of the Mississippi Foresters Association, and David Livingston, right down the hall here, Executive Director of the Mississippi Loggers Association. Casey, David, thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having us here.
So, a lot of attention lately in the state of Mississippi and really across the country with respect to the European Union deforestation rules that are having an impact on the forestry industry in this country. And, of course, that's a big industry here in the state of Mississippi. Give us an overview of that, if you would, David, as we get started.
Yeah, basically, it started coming up into effect a couple of years ago, and basically it was a set of rules and guidelines that the European Union wanted us to follow in order to be compliant to sell products from American companies into a European country. And what they don't understand is most of the stuff that's in those regulations and all, we already do. We have all types of certifications. We're very sustainable. We're very green within the United States, especially here in Mississippi. We have a state implementation committee that oversees all logging and jobs and everything else to make sure that everything is compliant and that everything is done properly, so that if there is a problem, that it can be corrected quickly.
Okay.
So,
what's the goal, David? What are they trying to achieve here?
They're trying to prevent a country who is 100% sustainable and from doing things that some of your newer countries are doing. And I'll use Brazil for example, because they have an astronomical deforestation rate down there at this time. They're deforesting thousands of acres annually.
Yeah.
And that's what they're trying to stop. They're trying to stop the cut of the rainforest if it meets certain criteria and such as that. And that they're just trying to ensure that if it is cut, that it is put back into forest land. That's not the case in Brazil. And ironically, with that, Brazil is the number one importer of baled fluff pulp into the United States. They overtook Canada last year, and them and Canada share the top, but there's over $4 billion worth of pulp coming into this country a year, and the vast majority of that is coming from Brazil. Well, we have no way knowing of whether that comes from a deforested land or whether Brazil's adhering to it. China and several other countries said, we don't do that. We're not worried about that. When it's all come out. So, that's creating a huge issue for us because that's coming into our country, and there's not, when they levied the 50% tariff on Brazil, that was not included on it, and unfortunately, we've got, for example, we've got pulp coming in from Brazil to the Port of Mobile and being put on a truck and shipped to Pine Bluff, Arkansas, to a paper mill there that Suzano owns, which is a Brazilian company.
Okay.
And they're making paper out of it. And they're not buying wood fiber from that radius around that paper mill anymore. And unfortunately, we have a lot of mills in the country that are doing that. I mean, at that rate. So we need tariffs on that or something to try to police that and try to find out whether or not that pulp that's coming in here is subject to the same things that they're trying to make us do to be able to, these American companies, to be able to sell into the European Union. So
Casey, I was under the impression that from a landowner's perspective, that for decades in this country, we've understood that if we cut trees down, to just put it real simply, and we don't plant new ones, that we're going to run out of trees and all the things we do with those products. I thought decades ago we had adhered good practices to ensure that we're essentially planting more than we take down. Are we not doing that anymore?
You're correct. We are. I mean, we have 3 times more trees. We plant more trees than we harvest. So we have 3 times more trees than we're actually taking out of the ground. The premise of the EUDR move is it's also aimed at soy and at beef. And so they're wanting to ensure that your land doesn't go into agriculture production or beef, because they don't see beef as a sustainable food source.
Okay.
And so while they obviously want you to replant, it doesn't say you can't put up solar or you can't turn it into development.
Okay.
They are singling out certain commodity groups.
I see.
Yeah.
To meet their agenda,
Right.
whatever.
Correct.
So, how is this affecting your industry and other landowners? What do they say?
Well, our landowners are pretty upset, and as they should be. We're a private property rights state. We don't want anyone to tell us what we can do with the property we own. And, really, it's trying to think.
Is it affecting, say, the industry's ability to sell those products to European consumers?
It is, and the companies have to check a box because they want to stay in business.
Sure.
And so if they can't check that box and get the fiber that they need from landowners in surrounding areas, well, they may decide to just pack up that mill and move somewhere else where they could probably maybe procure the fiber.
Okay. So, David, you were telling me before we went on the air that you guys have been in touch with our delegation, our Washington delegation. You've shared with them the problems associated with this, and they have come out and officially, right, in writing, supported opposition. They're aligned in opposition to applying those European rules here in the state of Mississippi on behalf of the industry. What might that lead to?
We had the whole federal delegation sign on to the letter in support of opposing the EUDR.
Okay.
And those letters are now reaching the president's office, and he had a roundtable discussion with Brooke Rollins in the ag setting where the EUDR was discussed, and the president specifically said, "I need a 2-paragraph, 1-pager." On this, so we can get it taken care of and get it stopped. So we're hoping we're at that point now to where it's reached the level of importance by so much focus being put on it. And it's not only us, Arkansas, many other states have sent these letters in to that and to the Department of Commerce and the Secretary of Trade's office as well. So. We're really, really close, and we're hoping that this goes away and that we are not included in those regulations because we are sustainable and we do the right things, and that our American companies selling over there are doing the right things to keep that right to be able to sell over there without being levied those fines that we talked about before. That's the whole goal. That's a market share over there that we don't need them to lose.
Okay.
Because if they lose, then we lose because we have nowhere to sell it because they can't produce as much product. So it's a double-edged sword when it gets down to it.
So the forestry industry in Mississippi is $20-25 billion, something like that?
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah.
Second leading industry in the state.
behind just agriculture, right? And I'm not sure where you draw the line.
Yeah, chicken poultry is a number one.
That's number one. That's right.
Yeah,
You're right.
And I picked with our buddy Mark Leggett. I said, if y'all would quit selling $20 a pound chicken feet to China, we might take y'all over again. But we're going to get enough meals. We're going to get on top again.
I got you. So, and there are a bunch of landowners that are involved. In many of these landowners, this land, right, Casey, has been in their families for generations.
Yeah. And part of the reason why the regulation doesn't work in the U.S. is that we have so many private landowners.
Yeah.
And we buy and sell land all the time.
That's right.
So if you're going to audit someone, and you know, this landowner who had the property at the time that the timberland was the trees were purchased, that landowner may not be the same landowner in 5 years.
Sure.
And so they may have decided to do something else with it. And so the model in the U.S. is just very different than it is in the EU.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So it sounds like something, David, that maybe the president will have to go directly to the EU leaders and share this with them and ask them to make some adjustments.
Right, and I think he's going to use it in his trade negotiations and understanding that, you know, that we've got a good model here that maybe the rest of the world needs to follow in what we're doing, because we're the leaders, especially here in the Southeast in forest production. We've become the wood basket of the world, especially, you know, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. I mean, we've got more trees than Georgia as well, you know. So we've got the capacity here, and we've got the formula to grow trees and be productive and keep stuff in production. You know, even if we have to take some of it out of production for whatever reason.
I got you.
A lot of the land that we have was ag land. It was converted to forestry.
Yeah.
Because it was a highest value of the use of the land. So,
we're not having problems producing sufficient yields in the traditional agricultural row crops.
And the thing about it is, it specifically says that in that regulation, if I'm not mistaken, that the landowner has to replant. Well, in our part of the world, you let it go, it's going to replant itself.
That's
you don't
true.
have to replant it. It'll regenerate and it's going to come back.
I watch that in my yard.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so, I mean, I think it's just they didn't ask for any input where we could have compared to them and say, hey, this does not apply to us.
We got a break. Hang around. We'll keep talking.
All
right. We got Casey Anderson with the Foresters Association and David Livingston with the Loggers Association in the Element Wealth studio.
Picture this. You're on a...
Attention, adoring fans! It's time for
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
If you want to drive a big limousine, I'll buy the longest one you've ever seen. I'll buy you tall, tall trees and all the waters in the seas. I'm a fool for you.
Welcome back. It is Middays from the Element Wealth studio. We're visiting with Casey Anderson, Executive Director of the Mississippi Foresters Association, and David Livingston, Executive Director of the Mississippi Loggers Association. Okay, so tell us, David, about the schedule of events, how these rules are implemented. What's the time frame on that?
Right. Initially, when this all coming into effect, it's the rule is supposed to go into effect December 31st of 2025.
Okay.
So, but for these companies to be compliant, they have had to implement it at the first of this year, because it can be up to a 9-month delay before that product is processed and ready to ship as a finished product. And they have to be compliant at that time. So they had to back their regulation up, which caught some companies off guard because they weren't aware of that. And some of these tracks that were being cut earlier in the year may have been bought a year and a half ago when none of this was being talked about.
Okay.
And so you didn't know at the time that it was a factor with the landowner, and the landowner didn't know it was a factor. Loan officers that were loaning money on a piece of land that was taking that timber for collateral didn't know that this was going to be an issue. So when it did become an issue, it was really elevated, and people really started getting on board with trying to get the light shined on this problem that we're having and that we're experiencing, because landowners could lose thousands of dollars in their timber sale, and not to mention timber buyers and loggers that are out purchasing this timber. They're just sitting there without knowing, and it was something that was very unexpected, not anything that the company's done, American company's done intentionally. It's just they're trying to check that box so they don't get those unnecessary cruel fines that are associated with it. So
who would they pay the fines to?
We don't know yet.
We don't know.
That's
Good question. That's another one of those unknowns of where the fines go to the EU if there's a violation. So.
What a mess. Okay. So, Casey, talk about how all the trade activity, all the tariffs and the trade wars and so forth that have been going on several months since the president was elected. Is that affecting your industry, and if so, in what way?
Well, David's probably more the expert on the tariffs than I am, so I may throw that one to him.
Sure.
Yeah, it has had an effect, because a lot of the equipment that we use and stuff, and that's the big one.
Okay.
That's the big one there, and it's hurting our equipment companies, and the fact that they're having to pay higher prices for products.
Okay, so
they need to keep us running and keep us functional and keep us working. I'm sure it's the same thing in the sawmill world, and because a lot of those parts or stuff are manufactured in other countries, And as I mentioned earlier, the crazy thing is the things that we need the tariffs being applied to, like the bale fluff pulp coming in from these countries, it's not applying to them. So it has had an effect. How big an effect it's going to have?
Okay.
And I've said this over and over again. I'm not an expert by any means on that thing, but Trump really has made some really good calls and really good decisions, and it's maybe a long term. It's going to be short term pain for a long term gain.
Yeah.
It's still up in there, but I know it has had an effect on our parts and our equipment and our on those guys. It's a huge problem for them, which they have to share that cost with somebody, and we're already paying exorbitant prices for machinery and stuff like that. Now we're having to repair parts, and all that's going through the roof as well.
Well, Mike McCormick, who you know is the president, CEO of Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation, when he was in a few months ago talking about that, often a piece of this big equipment, heavy machinery, can move back and forth across the border, a part, for example, going through different assembly phases, and just have these tariffs layered on, and that's boosting the price of a lot of these products.
Same thing with the forestry equipment. Okay. It's the same thing. Tiger Cat is manufactured mainly in Canada. John Deere has some manufacturing over there as well.
Okay.
So it's affecting everybody.
Okay, got it. Well, have you talked to the delegation about some of these issues that you're dealing with here with respect to that, to maybe see if there can be some relief? And I guess the other question is, for both of y'all, is we have this $12 billion aid package that the president just announced earlier in the week. Are you guys going to participate in that in your industry, or is this just going to row crop farmers?
From what we understand, it's just going to row crop farmers. I think there's been some discussion about there being a possibility of something going to landowners, but we haven't seen anything concrete yet.
All right. Interesting. David, I know you work a lot with the legislature as well. Anything in particular you're looking for in the coming 26th session?
Not really this year. We're just kind of sitting back and seeing what comes out. The legislature's been really good to us the past several years, and our industry is in a lot better position over the past 5 or 6 years than where we were. With the changes, with an addition of the additional weight to be able to haul to be competitive with our surrounding states.
That was a big one, wasn't it?
That was a big one. That put us competitive with our surrounding states. That's why we landed so many more mills. Than everybody else in the surrounding states have landed. But that put us on because we've got the wood availability, we've got the loggers, and now we've got the same.
Okay, so we can transport it.
Same things that they had through
in a more efficient method,
exactly.
right?
It's all about efficiency. So it's helped us economically here in the state. Everybody thinks, well, roads don't need more. We got bad roads. Well, we got bad roads, but most of these roads that are bad were farm to market roads to start with. So and there wouldn't be a road there if it weren't a farm to market road to start with. So one of the important things is we had the Emergency Road and Bridge Fund. That's another great thing that come out of the legislature, that we've been able to help a lot of the counties get to where they could replace some closed bridges and bridges that were in poor repair. I'd like to see something come around back on that again to see if we can get some more emphasis, because that program was working very, very well, and that I don't think will happen this year, but it's something we can start talking about to work towards to get it back in place.
Casey, we experienced a devastating drought a couple of years ago, and some of the figures shared by Forestry Commission representatives were nothing short of staggering. How are we doing recovering from that at this point?
I see, driving down the road most days, I see people taking dead trees down all the time. I think it's going to be a couple years before we really know how we recovered.
Okay.
Because it's going to take a while to get all the trees down. It's going to take a while to see, is that going to affect our markets? Is that going to affect, the amount of trees that we can get to a sawmill? So I think it's still kind of a wait and see game.
Okay. What do your members say? What do they need? What's on their mind? What are they concerned about?
Man, so many things.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
I think the main one right now is just markets.
Okay.
That's really, we're struggling with our being able to move small diameters. So first thinnings is really problematic right now for certain parts of our state. North part of the state, it's pretty bad. You get further south you go, you have a little bit more access, but with the closure of that Grenada mill, we're seeing a lot of difficulties in just getting rid of residuals. A lot of residuals went to that mill. So some of the surrounding facilities are having a hard time figuring out, hey, how do we get rid of this sawdust or these chips? So that's markets is really our biggest need in our state right now.
Okay. What are you hearing from your group, David, with the loggers?
Yeah, the markets, that's what affects them. We're basically, most of our crews in the state run at about a 75% capacity level, which is a struggle in any business when you're based off of production. So it's a huge, huge problem for us. And here again, the big issue is getting rid of those low-value pulpwood products and stuff like that. One of the effects of the drought, that we've seen, if we'd had a market for all that stuff on the highways that got ground up and is laying there going to rot, if we had a power plant, a biofuels plant, more biochar investment in the state, that gives us the markets for that. If the mills have someplace that a pellet mill or something like that we can sell to the EU to make pellets, well, we have one mill that's done that. Anything investment in using a biomass, whether it be for power or whatever. California's got a plant over there that runs about 50 to 60 loads of wood waste a day, ground up wood waste, and it produces enough power for about 52,000 people. So
wow.
You look at the whole cost of what it cost us and what the result would be, we'd have had a whole lot better outcome economically if we'd have had a market for those landowners that didn't get to that's still standing there. That's going to just rot.
Makes sense. I understand. Appreciate you guys coming in. Enjoyed it. Yeah, very informative. Casey Anderson, Executive Director of the Mississippi Foresters Association, and David Livingston, Executive Director of the Mississippi Loggers Association. They have been our guests. We're stepping aside for a break. Coming right back. Half an hour of Middays remains.
From the Seabrook devices. The talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
Now, onto the real part.
Dynamite! On SuperTalk Mississippi.
That would be Blondie. She rose to the peak of her fame back when I was in college. I think the old film American Gigolo is kind of what put her on the map. Call Me, remember that tune? She was a Playboy centerfold, wasn't she? I think. Richard Gere starred in that movie. Kind of cheesy, American Gigolo.
I don't know that she was ever a centerfold. She was a Playboy bunny.
A bunny, okay.
At one of the clubs.
Got you. Okay. Debbie Harry, her name. Is she still alive? Seemed like she passed away. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Don't want to call that. Check it out.
She's still with us.
Okay, good.
80 years of age.
All right. It's hard to believe. On up there. David in Macomb says, great program, Gerard, on the timber issues affecting our state. More light needs to be shined on this topic. Thank you for doing so today. Just an aside, it is the Mississippi Forestry Association. Apologies for that. Thank you for pointing that out, David. That's what I have on my sheet here, and I think maybe that was just a typo. But so it is the Loggers Association, right, and the Forestry Association. So kind of different versions. But appreciate that, David. Yes, this is something when I saw this make its way into the news with respect to our federal delegation signing off on their opposition to the EU deforestry regulations, the EUDR, I think as they are known. I did request of our content director to perhaps have what we did today, which I'm pleased that worked out, kind of a panel discussion roundtable to dig into all those details. And look, it's a critical industry to our state, no doubt about it. And I kind of stay, as you can tell, mad at the Europeans for just their ridiculous, onerous, anti-American business restrictions and rules and fines and everything else. It's just a shakedown, honestly, of American companies and American citizens. And the president, Trump, he gets it, and he's going after it, which I certainly applaud and appreciate. So they need to get their act together, in my view. And, man, glad y'all have a Playboy expert on staff. I only remember this because when she kind of came on the scene in the pop music lexicon when I was in college, I just remember that being discussed, that she was affiliated with the Playboy enterprise. You have told us now that she was a bunny, not a centerfold. So my apologies for promoting her to centerfold, if there is such a thing. That's awesome. Let's see here. What else we got on the C Spire text line? Jerry in Waynesboro just sent a screenshot of a news report. Benny Thompson says he misspoke after calling D.C. National Guard shooting and, quote, unfortunate incident. Jerry says, he heard you. Look at the time. Well, I don't know if we can take credit for that, but it is a curious time. At a minimum, it's probably true that there are some Thompson affiliates or staffers or supporters that tune in. I don't know. But, you know, that apology, I'm all about accepting someone's apology if it's authentic and genuine. And if it comes from the heart and the mind. I'm just not sure with this guy. It's a bit of an
It's damage control.
Of course it is. Well, it kind of goes back to what I said earlier. I think there are even some Democrats that voted for him that would say, yeah, that's going too far. I hope that's the case of people in Mississippi's 2nd District that have voted probably every time for the congressman when he is up for election and re-election and re-election. Let's see. This is a question I'm sorry I missed, and it's do they replace or replant hardwood trees as they do pines? I don't know the answer to that. Rhino, are you familiar with that situation?
It depends. I do know that there are some efforts by some organizations to reforest with hardwood, but a lot of those are much more long-term investments on their part because it takes that much longer for hardwood to grow to the size required. whereas a lot of them do replant purely with pine because you can plant more, it grows faster, you can harvest sooner, and I don't know that there's a real great way to get the industry on board with replanting hardwood because that is such a time-intensive process to get them back to an age or size where they can be harvested again. But I do know that there have been some efforts in the last few years to at least start that ball rolling downhill a little bit faster.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's necessary, but just thinking about it, how do we use hardwoods? I mean, we don't use that in construction the way we do pine, right? Do we use it furniture making? I guess would be one of the things that comes to mind. Do we use hardwood pulp for anything as well? This is where I'm a little out of my league, not familiar with the applications and use of our timber products.
I mean, the pulp is a major factor in like paper and textile and stuff.
Sure.
But I'm unfamiliar with all the products for hardwood outside of furniture, flooring, and stuff like that.
Yeah, flooring, that's another good point. But in general, in the framing and construction, which is where we big time use pine, other applications I'm not as familiar with. And I think, when you heard David and Casey talking about we need more markets, I mean, that's something that also applies to soybeans, does it not, Rhino, where we're looking for more applications of the actual product produced. And more applications means more markets, more revenue, more opportunities to sell.
According to the Google box, the main uses for raw hardwood are furniture and construction with veneers, flooring, engineered wood products.
Yeah.
And secondary is flavoring.
Oh, okay.
For oak chips and staves for aging wine and beech and oak sawdust for mushroom cultivation.
Okay. Well, so, that's a good point. Like, often for inside trim in kind of a high-end house, you would have hardwood materials used. Doors, right, would be another example. So, again, it's just a function of money.
And the breakdown, the Google box gave a breakdown on the pulp, the hardwood pulp versus softwood pulp. Hardwood pulp, like oak, maple, birch, has shorter fibers, which means products made from the hardwood pulp are usually smoother and brighter, making them good for printability or tactile use, such as tissue paper.
Okay.
Softwood pulp from pine or spruce has longer fibers, providing strength for durable products like packaging, such as cardboard.
I understand. William and Brandon also pointed out that Benny made what he called a poor attempt at damage control on Twitter from an hour ago. What a putz. Appreciate that, William. Yeah, it's just hard to take him seriously, isn't it? John and Florence asked a question about loggers hauling logs after sunset. I'm not sure if there are any laws that prohibit that. Are there?
It's the same basic law as when they're driving in daylight. In daylight, you have to have a red flag or rag or something on the longest log on the truck hanging off the back if it's hanging more than 10 feet, 12 feet, something like that. There's a limit, and if it's longer than that, you got to put a flag on it when it's daylight. And if it's not daylight, I don't remember if it's mentioned in the law itself, dusk and sunrise or something like that, but you got to put a light on it instead of a flag.
Whiskey Barrel, most profitable, says Hogman on the C Spire text line. White oak with no knots. With no knots. Yeah. Bub and Starkville, hardwood pellets for grilling, smoking, and heating. Yeah, that's a good application I hadn't thought about. And Paul and Hernando said, what about wood pellets burned for warmth? That's something as well. I agree. Paula Meridian wants to know, why aren't we, some Mississippi farmers, transitioning over to hemp? That it makes good building products. I've heard that as well.
It's because even though the regulations have been relaxed to allow for larger scale industrial hemp production, there is still the risk of loss of your crop if the crop develops a THC content that is above the legal limit.
Okay. Jerry in Waynesboro says he retired from logging 3 years ago, I can tell you anything you want to know. I bet you can. If you just retired from it, I assume then, Jerry, you had a long career in that industry. He says, this is what I can tell you. If you invest $2 to $3 million, you only get 3% return at best. That's a problem. I hear you, man. And that's makes it tough. Yeah, cabinets, that's true. I said furniture, but I would kind of put cabinetry in that category as well. I have some of that hardwood cabinetry stuff in my house. There's some great mills in the state of Mississippi.
A lot of times, though, with cabinetry, it's just going to be the door.
Right, that's true. That's a good point. The inside won't be, because in an effort to save money, essentially, right? Gets
save
more
money
expensive.
and reduce weight.
Yeah, that's a good point. Hadn't thought about that. Drawers, same thing, right? Might have the front, but not the sides and the bottom. Coming right back.
Little Mammy's got a brand new bag.
Carter Jewelers.
You know what that means.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
We'll do it live.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Well studio. So, man, we've been around the world today. It's been a show with a variety of subject matter, from Benny Thompson and his shenanigans, now apologizing for his remarks with Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem up there in Washington, where he referred to the assassination of a 20-year-old National Guard troop as an unfortunate accident. Right. This was an Afghan national that intentionally shot 2 National Guardsmen, one fatally, in the head in the middle of the day. What a fool. So, I don't know. I'm shaky on accepting that apology. I hate to be like that. And by the way, somebody asked about the due process. I know, Rhino, you said, yeah, we ought to go ahead with respect to this Afghan national and execute him immediately. Somebody asked, do I believe in the constitutional process that you're entitled to a trial? I do, but I think it ought to be speedy, and I think the decision ought to be rendered, and I think that decision ought to be the death penalty. So, simple as that. Before we get out of here, I got to get to this, and it's an interview I caught this morning with Senator Mark Wayne Mullet from Oklahoma. And it concerns this controversy, this debate, very contentious one, very politicized one, over this healthcare stuff. Specifically, the enhanced subsidies in the ACA exchanges, which are set to expire in just a couple of weeks, and what to do about that going forward. And I like the senator, but I got to tell you, I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. Matters not to me. We got to deal with the facts. And some of the things I caught him in the interview say this morning are just not accurate. And one of those has to do with, well, the reason that the Democrats enhanced the subsidies was because of the sharp rise in premiums. That's false. Here's what I mean by that. The way the subsidies are calculated, they are as a percentage of your household income. So here's the simple way to illustrate why that's really not the issue. If the cost of health care policy were $1 million in the exchange a year, and you are entitled to a subsidy that only requires you to pick up the premiums cost equal to 2% of your income, and you make $30,000 a year, you only pay $600 out of pocket for your cost of the premiums, even though the insurance company charges $1 million. So it's not that the Democrats enhanced the subsidies because the premiums went up. They enhanced the subsidies to gain favor with people because the person who was paying $600 a year now pays $300 a year, even though the premiums are $1 million. I know that's crazy. You don't have $1 million premiums. That's not what happened, Senator Mark Wayne Mullen. This was enhancing, expanding, increasing welfare. That's what it was. It has nothing to do with the insurance companies charge for those premiums. They didn't look at that, oh, wow, the premiums went up, people are paying more out of pocket. No, they're not. No, they're not. It's still the percentage of their income. What happened after the enhanced subsidies were charged is that the percentage of their income, all that slid downward, meaning they're now paying less, irregardless of what the insurance companies charge. And so he said that made it unaffordable. That's not true. That's not what happened there. He also said that there are a number of fake claims being charged against the policies. No, there are a lot of fake policies. What I mean by that is people that we've talked about several days now that didn't even know they signed up because these insurance brokers are essentially tricking people. They're luring people into signing up unwittingly on their part. And then they're charging the government for it. That's what's happening. It's not fake claims. It's really fake insurance that these people don't even know they have insurance. And he also said that in the plan that they offered that didn't pass the Senate yesterday, there would be no more subsidies. That's not true. The enhanced subsidies expire. We're returning back to the original Obamacare subsidies, which is why the Democrats don't have a leg to stand on. This was their law that every Democrat supported and no Republicans supported. And then they come along 10 years later and say, oh, yeah, we got to juice it up more. That's what makes me mad. So you're not actually accurate in that respect, Senator Mark Wayne Mullen. It is true that the Obama and the Democrats did say, yeah, we're going to lower your premiums by $2,500 is what they said. What Mark Wayne Mullen said, 25%. That's not what they said. It's $2,500. I know it gets kind of wonky into that stuff. Just pointing out the facts from the fiction. Back with you Monday. Have a great weekend. Stay safe and God bless.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.